Hey, Dr. Kaufman, how are you, sir?
I am great.
It's an absolute pleasure to meet you. Thank you for making your way to Spark.N.Stride, where conversations are sparked and put in motion.
It's totally my honor. And please call me Mike.
Oh, Mike? Oh,
Yes, I prefer that.
Okay, so Mike, Mach. So, hey, man, let's get into it. I know we're here to discuss your book,
Yes.
but before we dive into that, let's have a little cold brew from
Yes.
Turnstile
It's
Roasters,
excellent, actually.
right?
Yeah.
And let's see where this goes, man.
Yeah.
So-
I needed some of this at my age. You know, a little booze can't hurt. Yeah.
Awesome, man. Awesome. So what's been going on with you? You look pretty tanned.
Yes, I am very tan. Just moved my little one into college, and that was emotional.
I have a 6-year-old.
Yeah.
She's not going off to college.
Yeah.
So what's your little one? How old is she?
18.
Wow.
Yeah. Small school in Boston.
Okay.
And it was great. It's exciting, but it's like a journey. All of our journey. I was just shocked by how emotional I got at the goodbye. I
Wow.
thought I was strong,
Yeah.
you know, but at the end, it was tough not to cry.
Yeah.
So I did.
Why and why wouldn't you? Right? I mean,
Exactly.
it's your little girl, right?
Yeah, and I think it was tears of joy.
Mhm. Yeah.
Of this is such a great journey,
Mhm.
and that's one thing that I'm so excited to talk today about. You know, this book, and also knowing a little bit about you, like your journey. Like we all have one.
Yeah, for sure.
And now it's my time for my little one, my daughter, to go on hers.
Well, yeah,
Yeah.
and thankfully, she's in a position where she has the support, right? The support and the love, and
Yes.
like she has a family that's behind her. You know, just as I was speaking to someone last week, and we were going through, we were kind of like peeling back the onion a little bit on our individual journeys and just how different it is for different people, and how everyone's starting line is not the same one, right? Like we don't all start from the same place,
Yeah.
right? So, no, all good.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. We all start somewhere different. And, there's just so much debate these days of like when we grew up, there wasn't as much support. But in a way, did it make us stronger and ready to handle everything that comes our way? Sometimes I've questioned, have I been overly supportive, doing too much for her or for the kids? And, you have to think that through. I'm not exactly sure.
Right.
Love is the key. So if you love your children, I think that's the key. And then we all make some mistakes, and we've probably done a pretty good job, hopefully.
So, Mike, I want to ask you something. So, I consider you, from your bio that I've read, and I've read different sections of the book, right, which we'll get into. I'm always curious. Did you see yourself? Was this part of your path of success? Did you see this? Did you envision any of this for yourself?
Oh, you mean actually writing the book?
Just your success.
Oh
in general.
gosh, no. When I was young, I didn't really believe in myself. I doubted myself. I had low self-esteem. I was really shy and quiet, and these things kind of developed as I got older. So I just wanted to somehow be happy, I think, because when I was a kid, I wasn't the most happy. I was sort of a sad kid. So no, what happened was I think it all came from me as wanting to help somebody who felt like I did, a little bit lost, a little bit out there, didn't feel that supported, that loved, or whatever it may be, and wanted to be there for someone. So I just wanted to help people. I found that when I was volunteering, which I did a lot in my 20s, or I did a lot even in my teens, I just felt great doing something for somebody else, focusing on other people, helping them. And I think by helping others, I was healing something inside myself. So my goal was just on doing good for the world, doing good for people out there, especially kids. My heart was always in for working with kids in need, without a family, without love, without support, who were struggling and maybe were misunderstood, because I sort of felt that was me. So that was my dream, was to help someone. So the funny thing is the financial success of that is usually very low, right?
Yeah, for
Being
sure.
a social worker, a caseworker, helping others, nobody does it thinking there's going to be some type of financial success at the end of that rainbow. What it is for you're doing it because it's a calling, it's a passion. And for me, that's what it all was. And as I started going on and getting more into education, which I never thought I would be, I started to realize that I loved leadership. So when I got into organizations to be helpful, I also thought of, well, if I could run the organization, run the school that I was working at, run the agency, I help more kids, I help more parents, I help more families. So my desire to help, and I was always ambitious. So I think I always had that in me to want to do more, want to succeed, want to be helpful. The two together, I started to rise up in an organization, started to love leadership. So when I started with that, then I thought, oh, maybe I can lead it. But there was a lot of insecurity there. So your own demons come out when you're becoming a leader of insecurity. So somebody gives you feedback and it's not great. I would get hurt and defensive. And you can't be a leader if you're going to be hurt and defensive. So I had to learn how to, take in feedback, listen. And when you are hurting on the inside and you haven't dealt with your own issues, those demons will come out. When you deal with those demons, you can be powerful. So when I started dealing with them and through my leadership, admitting to people like, I'm struggling here, it's hard for me to be tough. I had this desire to be liked. So when I started getting into leadership, I wanted everyone just to like me. And there was one woman that worked there and said, Mike, you're a nice guy, but none of us are gonna follow you because you let everyone off the hook. You don't hold anyone accountable. So I've always been huge on empathy. So a big thing, and I even mentioned in the book, is the dichotomies. So if you're going to be empathetic, that's great, understanding people, but you got to be accountable also. So if you don't have the other side of it, someone's not going to take you seriously. Then if you're all accountable and you don't have the empathy, people aren't going to want to be led by someone who's just about the numbers, just about what are you doing. So you need the two sides together. So all these things started to come together for me of looking at myself, growing, and realizing that, wow, I can help people, but I also can, lead and do well and lead people. I just found that people were, resonating with things that I said as time went on. And they were like, wow, you're a good dude. We want to follow you,
Yeah.
which was fun. Yeah. So
yeah, for sure. I could totally relate to that, man.
Yeah.
I think my first experience in a leadership role was during my time in Korea. So I was in Korea from 06 to 07. And what I learned very early on at the time, so in the Air Force, you take an exam on your Air Force knowledge and then on another exam on the knowledge of your position, of your job. And then they combine those two scores. And then if you meet the cutoff, now you're promoted, right? So I went from being like a senior airman to a staff sergeant while I was in Korea. However, I didn't get the actual stripe, the actual rank. I received my rank, or my SOAN, they call it your SOAN date, the day that you actually put it on. It was roughly 2 months prior to going to my follow-on assignment, which was Italy, right? However, while you're in Korea, because it's they consider it a hardship tour, there's no families there. So it's just you and you're there by yourself, right? So what's interesting about that is that you live and work with the people that you see you're living and working with the folks that you're serving with. So one of my supervisors at the time, he was a really, really, really good guy. And to your point, he had this, he was very insightful and reflective on his leadership style. One of the things that he taught me was that what you don't realize at the time is that everyone is looking, not just the folks that you're working with, not just the folks that you supervise, but you have bosses and they have bosses and everyone's watching, right? So everyone's watching how you do your thing. Do you lead by example? Do you lead from the front or the rear? Managers lead from the rear.
Right.
Leaders lead from the front, right? So, but what I'm saying to you, how I relate to what you just described is going back to, his advice to me was you start out with a closed fist. You could easily open your fist. You can never start with a wide fist or open hand and close your hand in terms of leadership.
Right. That's great advice. Yeah.
So, no, man.
Well, I love your background in the military, and I think there's so much to learn on leadership there. So one of my internships was at the VA hospital in Lyons.
Okay.
And I did a group for Vietnam veterans. I did it with a former Vietnam veteran. He led the group, and also former POWs from World War II, if you can believe that.
Wow.
So I got to sit in, and when I was 22 years old, and I realized everything that we learned about, was in a little textbook on these wars, these major wars, and I didn't know anything what these men went through, and the strength and the courage, and it was such an incredible leadership lesson, and just to hear just that what the human spirit can go through, what we all can accomplish. And it really helped me when I was going for my doctorate and I was on call if anybody was suicidal at Rutgers in the afternoons, just to be, that experience of hearing from what those guys went through. Gosh, if you can be out in the field in a wartime or battle or anything, or even trainings, I can do this. I can get in front of somebody at 3 a.m. who says, they may take their life, and I can sit in front of you. I can help you, and let's get you the support you need. But I just learned so much from actually soldiers, former military, and actually what we all really just don't know, what the service that you guys all gave to give us our freedoms now. So there's just so much for us to learn to be great leaders. And if your ears are open, you'll hear it. So I think, your military experience, I'm fascinated by it too.
Yeah, no, I mean,
to lead you where you are today.
Listen, brother, this is a conversation. So this is not an interview. Feel free to, come across the table with any questions you may have for me.
Yeah.
Well, how do you feel about delegation in terms of being a leader?
So that's one thing I've gotten really good at delegating. I feel that if you're going to be a great leader, you want to create other leaders. I've always felt, now there's different types of people. When you're leading and you see somebody that you think can be greater than you, I love to tell somebody that. It's such a badge of honor if you can see somebody and they're better than you. They're helping the organization, they're helping you. So let them be them. Don't hold them back. So I love delegation. It makes your life easier. The more you delegate, the more you can think, and you can come up with a vision for the business. When you're truly a leader, like you said, lead from the front. Give everyone the tools. When you don't delegate, maybe you're leading from the back because you're not really seeing the big picture. Create other leaders around you. When I hire people, I always say, what's the next position you want in their first interview? What do you want to be? Hey, I'm coming in as a teacher, but I would love to be a principal one day of the school. That's great. You get in here and let's start talking about how we can get you there. So I think delegation is just a great skill set to have and something that we need to do. And it's the only way to make people competent. One thing that I learned when I started is when I was leading the first school I ran, I thought if I left for the day and it fell apart, I'm an amazing leader, right? I leave, this whole place falls apart. That's ridiculous. It's the opposite. If you've done a great job, you leave, nobody even knows you left because you've created others that know what they're doing. They know their roles. They can run the place by themselves. So, those little lessons you get. So when I would leave and then it was great, I'm like, now I'm doing a good job because what did I do? I delegated. I let people know that they can run this as good or maybe better than I can.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Yeah. I think with one of the first things I learned, I was mentored on was delegation in terms of being a leader, in terms of being a supervisor, and what it does for the folks that you're responsible for, or because in the military it's a little different. In the military, it's different, obviously, than corporate America or any sort of institution outside of the Department of Defense, right?
Yeah.
Or outside of the branches of service, because in a corporate environment, once you're checked out at 5 or so, or once you get off that Zoom meeting, you're pretty much on your own, right? For us, it's a little different because they hold us responsible for the health, morale, and welfare of all of the folks that you supervise, right? So should something happen to one of your folks, they get into a car accident, they're in the hospital, they're getting a surgery or anything, your supervisor comes to you with an update on what's going on with that individual person, because ultimately that person is going to go report up.
Yes.
Where I feel like in corporate America, maybe a little different-ish, kind of. I don't know that it's you're charged with the health, morale, and welfare of everyone in the sales department. I don't know that that's a thing, kind of,
Yeah, and what I love about some of my reading on the military is there are times we talk about delegation, but there's also time for command and control, right? Where somebody has to step up and not delegate, take charge. Everyone wants to know their leader is willing to roll up their sleeves and do the most difficult thing that comes up. So you have to understand that, I need to take charge here. It's my show. I have to do this.
Mm-hmm.
And when it's time to lean back and let them all take it over. So it's just having those different skill sets. And, as a big sports guy, like I can throw a football with the right hand, which is the delegation. Throwing a football with the left hand is really hard for me. That would be the command and control. I always felt like that seemed like I was being too powerful or trying to, I don't know it just didn't feel as comfortable. But you need to work both muscles.
Yeah, I agree.
Both sides. Yeah,
100%. But also with the delegation part of it, what I learned early on is that it allows the folks that you're responsible for in terms of leading, it allows them the opportunity that you're letting them know that you trust them.
Yes.
It instills trust in terms of like culture within the organization. I've seen it where, some folks, for whatever reason, let's just say there's a new system, a new database or whatever the case is, and you're the one that's been trained up on it. You're somewhat proficient in it. You feel like, it's just easier for me to do it. But in reality, it's actually easier to pause, train 2 or 3 other people on it,
yes.
right?
Yes.
So what we try to accomplish in the military is to exclude or not allow for single points of failure. Right. Because that is just detriment to the entire mission.
Yeah.
If there's solely just one person that could kind of like do one thing. Right.
Mm-hmm.
So, no, I definitely could relate to everything you're saying, Mike.
Yeah. I mean, the most fun I've had was creating new leaders. I would say something like we would call it hire for redundancy. A lot of organizations, when you're either struggling a little bit or you see a profit coming in, most people are like, let me cut costs to maybe get more of a profitability. My philosophy is invest, especially if you see some growth. Even in the short run, it may hurt. So I want to get a few more leaders in, that maybe 1 or 2 more than we need. There's so many opportunities out there. People are going to leave and find something else. But I want to develop leaders and to give them time to lead. What happens so much is when we have when I was running this company called Ceci, we had 75 schools. So there was always a school we needed a school director for. What happens is when you hire a leader right when you have a need, they jump right in and do the job. There is no time to train, to learn the position. I want to hire you 3 to 4 months before you're doing the leadership role so you can get our culture. You can sit and learn. You can actually listen. I would even create something like a passport. It would look like a passport. You had to get it stamped by the human resources office. You had to get stamped by the operational side, the finance side. So you would go around, you would spend a day or two with each person, each category of the organization, and really learn it before you do the job. So folks have an opportunity to truly learn how to do it. Yeah. So I love to just get people in, give them the time to learn, and it's just such a cool thing to see somebody realize their dreams. You want it for them and their families. All of us need to pay the bills. We're going to have kids. Like a lot of us, when we started, we were all young and we didn't have kids yet. So it was just like, okay, we make enough just to pay our cable and Wi-Fi. We're fine. But no, it becomes, I got to get my kid college. I got to buy a house. I need a mortgage. So everybody performs a lot better when they're taken care of. So if we can grow, the organization can grow. But if you don't have a strong leader or leaders around you or people that can make decisions, it won't work.
Wow. Processing everything you're saying, man. That's pretty, I really like that.
Yeah.
The whole stamping the passport kind of thing, kind of like making your way through all the continents of the organization,
exactly,
or states, or however you want to like equate it to. Super cool, man. Listen, so the book, right?
Yes.
So the book is called Doing Good and Doing Well. What sparked your interest, number one, to write a book?
Yeah.
Because I can't imagine that being easy.
No.
But what sparked the title to the book?
Yeah, so I think I hit on a little bit at the beginning that my whole life, my calling was just doing good, just helping people. That's all I wanted to do with my life. And I found that as much as I love that, as I got older and I evolved as a person, doing well also mattered to me, which meant running an, leading an organization, running something. So what I found is I'm a big leadership book person. I love leadership books. And I found that all of them, or almost all of them, are written by MBAs, finance people, the GE CEO, his book is incredible, or even Pat Riley's book of leadership was really good. It was athletes, coaches. And I found that, well, where's one of us? The nurses, the doctors, the teachers. Where's our book written by us? And what I found with a lot of agencies, let's just say you take a social service agency that may have revenue of $50 million. And what everyone will do is they'll say, okay, who are we going to find to run it? Let's get somebody with an MBA or a business person, which is fine, but they're not one of us. They didn't come through it. They haven't sat with the client at their house. They haven't done a home visit. They haven't the blood, sweat, and tears, bringing clients to get their social service checks, going to the offices with them. So we are the ones that get that. We are good listeners. We understand crisis intervention. We understand how to listen and to communicate. So I think we have all the skill set, but I'm just not seeing a book that is from one of us that would resonate with all of us in the helping professions to lead. And I've taught as an adjunct at Rutgers. I started in 1994 when I started my doctorate there. And I taught until about 2015. The only reason I stopped is because, life, and I was really busy, but I loved teaching grad school there. And I just never saw a great leadership book. So that's a little bit of it. Also, when I was leading CESI, this was one company, we had 2,000 employees.
Wow.
We became a pretty big business, 75 schools. And I would do something called SBU, Strategical Business Unit meetings, 4 times a year. I would get together with all the directors, about 75 people, and I would do leadership lessons. I would have them read books, the Shackleton survival story and what he did to survive, or all kinds of different leadership books. And we would all learn finance, how to lead people, how to look at yourself and grow. So I do all these fun lessons and finding your own joy, uncovering your own demons. So I was doing these lessons. I'm like, now what am I going to do with them? Like everybody, when I was teaching it, they seemed to really love it. So it was a combination of, okay, I've been a leader of an organization. I've taught graduate school at Rutgers for a lot of years, and I just want one of us as helping people to lead the organizations that we work for, not go to the outside to find someone. So part of it was like, I got to, if you want to do something, get off your butt and do it. And that's where I was. I was like, let me write this book. Let me, maybe use it to teach a graduate school course, leadership in the helping professions, and I can use my own book. And that's sort of where it came from.
Wow.
Motivated me to do it.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's so Mike, in regards to the book, you just went through in great detail on like what inspired you.
Yeah.
What was your routine for writing the book? Because I think that's also important too, right? Because you're making it sound extremely easy, right? You're like, hey, I wrote this book. I was a professor. I did, I think there's I would have to imagine there was a little bit of struggle there somewhere.
Oh, lots of struggle. I would say I'm not a triathlete, but I would think it's sort of a similar training for that. I mean, from beginning to end, it's we're going to come out in November. So it was 2 years. So it started with, I think the title, the desire to do it, and then the outline. That was huge to come up with the chapters. So the 10 chapters, picking what I wanted the chapters to be. And then it just a process of each chapter and writing it. And I have to give my one sister a lot of credit. She's an editor and helped me in a huge way.
Wow.
So if I didn't have her, there's no way this book would have happened. She's an incredible support, an amazing writer, great communicator. So having her to bounce all of these ideas off of and to make sure I'm grammatically correct, like, the right time to use a colon, semicolon,
Right.
all of us forget these things that we learned in 5th grade. So just to get all these ideas done, and the first draft was almost like I almost have to go back to zero. So it's like you climb a mountain and then you sort of fall down the mountain and have to go back up. And when you fall, do you really want to climb back up, or do you want to give up? So there was a few times you just want to call it a day. And then while you're writing this, you don't know if the publisher is going to think it's good.
I didn't even think of that part.
Yes. And
wow, that's such a good point, dude.
Yeah. And here's, what's really interesting is they really want you to write it in third person. That was awkward. So it can't be went to the store today and got an apple. Like, what they said is, Mike, unless you're Brad Pitt or somebody like that, nobody wants to hear I. It's more general stories. So you're writing and you're putting all this stuff down in a general format, third person. So that was an interesting process and one that was hard at first to accept. Now I love it because the lessons are more universal lessons. It's not just more about me, and I do get that. You don't want to just hear what I'm doing. You want to hear what the overview, what research you back things up with. So you have to back things up with research. That's really important. Make sure that you properly give the credit for anything that you get that isn't an original idea by you. Just imagine all the documentation you have to get in the footnotes to say, okay, this was from somewhere. Because I love making references to sports or social media, TV shows. Every time I present, I love to throw everything in there. So just a lot of research, making sure that's all backed up, that's all done. And it was tough. And you really just don't know how good it's going to be until somebody reads it. I'm sure you even go through this. Like you may sit down with somebody for an hour and a half and do one of these podcasts, and you may feel it was amazing. Then you watch it back and go, well, maybe I could have done better.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
I'm my biggest critic.
Exactly.
Yeah, for sure.
So I think it's a lot of self-reflection. I don't know that I could have done this when I was a younger guy. I would have gotten frustrated, and it wouldn't have been as rich. As there's something cool just about getting older, and I'm actually embracing it. I thought I would struggle with it more. I love it because you gain some wisdom, you get humble, all these great things that just help me to, okay, this isn't going so well. Okay, I wrote something that wasn't that good. And I was told, hey, make this a little bit better. Okay, I can handle that now. That's great. I want to grow and I want to learn. So having that experience is good to write a book so you have something to say, but also it's just the life lessons you learn to get you through it when it's tough. It's because it definitely is not. It's a journey.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, you mentioned before earlier in the conversation running 75 schools.
Yeah.
Can you just elaborate a little bit on that? Because you kind of like just that was a light flex. That was a really light flex you just did there.
That was an amazing experience in my life. So I started at this company in 1998 as a director in training of one special school for students with special needs, behavioral disabilities. What does that mean? It means kids that look like me and you, are like me and you, but may have gone through all kinds of different issues, tough families, tough lives. And they've been identified through the educational process. An IEP, an individual education plan, was developed to say there's some issues here that we have to deal with. So I started as a director of training of this company that was really small at the time, and I worked my way up where I love. So I started as a director of training, then I ran one school in Baltimore, and then I ended up becoming a regional director and opening schools from ground zero, about 10 or 11 in Maryland. And then I ended up becoming that regional director. Then I became chief operating officer of the company.
Whoa.
And then when the founder retired, she named me CEO. So I think that, again, is such a huge part of the book is, hey, I did it. I started as just a director in training, not making too much money. I learned everything. I know how to deal with these kids. I know how to deal with the families. I know how to deal with the communities. I get a profit and loss statement. I get all aspects. I know how to deal with the banks. So I learned it all just by coming up. So I felt I was the right guy to run it. It was scary, but that's where it came from. So we started as something small, and I grew with the organization and ended up running it.
Wow.
So that was a great experience.
What was your first job that you actually received a W-2 for?
That's I worked at a gas station. Pumping gas.
Okay.
And back in the day when you had to check oil, remember when you had to do that?
Yeah.
And I remember I was a hard worker, but I remember I was sitting reading the book Frankenstein. And I remember the owner of the gas station said, Mike, if I were you, I'd stick with the books. I don't think you get cars that well. So I loved the job, but I took that when he said that, like, okay, maybe being an auto mechanic or in that field probably wasn't for me.
Okay.
But I still loved it. And I loved holding that wad of cash. Remember back in the day when you paid by cash to get gas?
Oh, yes.
And when they finally let me hold that, I just loved holding it.
Yeah. So I want to add on to that. So for the folks that are listening, Spark.N.Stride Studios is in New Jersey, and New Jersey is a state where you do not pump your own gas. In the state of New Jersey, you have to allow the service attendant to pump the gas for you. Is actually a law. So
that's right. We're the only state left. I think it was Oregon.
That I did not know.
Yes, it was Oregon and New Jersey, and now Oregon doesn't anymore. So we are it.
Yeah. So going back to what you were saying, folks are paying you in cash, and you're just holding on to this.
Yes.
Probably pretty dangerous. But
probably pretty dangerous.
I don't know about that, but wow.
Yeah.
Okay, so that was your first. That was
my first job. Okay. Yeah.
That's got to be such a wild thing to reflect on, given where you are now, right?
Yeah. It was great. So now that you asked me that, and made me, go back in the recesses of my mind, let me ask you, what was your first job with a W-2?
Wow. My first job with a W-2. It was I was a New York City lifeguard.
Oh, wow.
I was a New York City lifeguard back in the mid-90s. That was my first. However, I had many jobs. Actually, I take that back. That is, I actually worked at the Palladium, which was one of the biggest nightclubs in New York City.
I remember the Palladium.
Yeah, I was a busboy at the Palladium.
Nice.
I don't even think I should have been working there just because of my age, but I remember getting a W-2. You know what I also remember? Okay, so you want to go down memory lane?
Yeah.
Let's do a little memory lane thing over here. So you remember the Palladium?
Yes.
Right? So on 14th Street. But in any case, do you remember Tad Steaks?
Yes.
You remember Tad Steaks?
Yeah.
Okay, so Tad Steaks was, how would you describe Tad Steaks to somebody? TADS.
I mean, just good quality food.
Right?
Yeah.
So the way, so to your point, good quality food. It was, I guess you could call it like a steakhouse.
Yeah.
But like a fast food steakhouse.
Right.
Do you remember that?
Yes. One you didn't have to be so rich to necessarily afford it.
Yes.
Yes. So that's the only reason why I even know of it, because at that time I wouldn't have been able to afford a real nice steakhouse.
So Mike, check this out. So I'm working as a busboy at the Palladium. So we would go on Fridays and pick up our checks. Mm-hmm. So we would go at 4:00. Actually, we would go a little earlier because I want to say, if I'm not mistaken, the check cashing place was closed by 5 or so. I could be off with the times, but ultimately we would get there late in the afternoon. You'd go pick up your check.
Yeah.
And there wasn't like direct deposit. It wasn't like I could take picture of it with my phone. So we would have to go around the corner. Me and the other bus boys would go around the corner, cash our check. And then there was a Tad Steaks on 14th Street, right up the street.
Yeah.
So we would go into Tad Steaks. I'd get like a T-bone. So you walk in. Do you remember this? You walk in. There's like a line.
Yes.
There's a grill. They ask you what cut of steak do you want.
Yeah.
Then they beat it down, right? They almost tenderize it right there.
Yeah, it's like the only fast food steak place I ever remember in a way, right?
And then you could pick like, you would get like a baked potato.
Yeah.
You would get almost like a wedge salad type of a thing.
I got to go with the baked potato there.
Right?
Yeah.
And so, but I just remember feeling, to your point, I felt like I was rich.
Yeah.
Right? Because I just got, it was a small check. It couldn't have been more than $300, right?
Yeah.
But you just had that wad of cash in your pocket. You're eating a steak. And we would do all this on Friday. But remember, we have to start working also. So we would go to Tad Steaks. We'd have our food, the garlic bread and the whole thing.
Oh, garlic bread.
Right?
Yeah.
Then you go back to the Palladium, and now you start setting up for the evening, right? So that was one of my first jobs in the city. I've had many. And then prior to that, I did tons of stuff where I wasn't, getting a W-2. But
right. Under the table type of jobs.
Yeah.
I had plenty of those, yeah.
Oh, man, I can't, wild.
Yeah, we all started working around 10, 11, 12, delivering papers or whatever.
Yep.
Just to make some money. Yeah.
We lived out in Rockaway, Queens, off of 116th Street. There was a Wallbounds, which was like a grocery store. And I just remember I would hang out in front of the Wallbounds and just ask all the little old ladies if I could just put their bags in the car for them.
Yeah. And
you would just get like a quarter per person you helped. You spend the whole afternoon there, you leave with about $30 or so. You know what I mean? So
Yeah, I mean, just talking with you and getting to know you a little bit, like I just would love you to come talk to some of our kids in one of our schools.
I would love to.
I think you have so much to offer. A lot of our kids have come from some tough experiences, and you figured out a way to make really good decisions in tough times where tough things face you.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what our kids need. They're great kids, the kids that I work with. But when a decision comes to be made, they sometimes will make that decision that isn't helpful to them. But you figured out how to make these great decisions, and, you know, picking the military where you could have gone somewhere different. I just think there's a lot of inspiration there. So
Yeah.
I love being here today, but I would
Yeah.
love you to come to one of our schools.
Whatever you need me to
Great.
do, I'm there for you.
Beautiful.
So just
Okay.
tell me what you need me to do. And
Great.
I love speaking to, clearly I love speaking to people,
Yes.
right? And I also love putting myself in a position where I could like mentor and share my story too.
Yes.
Because one of the big things I'll share this with you, like I'm writing a book.
Yeah.
So I'm writing a book. So I'm breaking down into three different books, kind of like my journey. So the first part of it is just going to be like my early years, and there was just like a lot of things that happened, a lot of trauma. Just I'm praying that it's going to be a good read, and that it resonates with a wide range of people, right?
Yes.
I'm hoping that it also can affect and inspire the younger generation that's, to your point, in these situations where they're trying to navigate and figure things out. I don't ever want it to come across that I made all the right decisions, because I didn't.
Right.
Joining the military, that was by accident. That was literally that was something or someone much more a higher being or a higher energy that guided me that way. And I always feel that things build on top of other situations. So I feel like joining the military was a building block, you know, and everything that I did within the military was a building block. I feel like this is an attachment to what's already been established. Mm-hmm. I don't know where this goes from here. I do know that my heart is pure and that what I want to do is help.
Yeah.
So if it's a podcast where we have these candid conversations and there's we discuss journey, wellness, how did you get to where you are? I think a lot of times young people can get, I feel sometimes without direction or without a destination, you're just aimlessly roaming around.
Yeah.
Right. And I like to share with folks, hey, listen, I'm not aimlessly walking around. I'm striding.
Yeah.
I have a spark and a stride. I'm moving in a purposeful direction. Mm-hmm. Come with me.
Yeah.
Come with me.
Yeah,
like let's do this together, you know?
Yeah.
So
here's why I think your book has to be written, is that if you look at Instagram or everything today, what is it? It's everyone trying to look beautiful and perfect, or showing some product, or they're at a party, or everything looks great. What your story resonates is with everyone who sits at home and says, I don't look that great. I don't have 70 friends. I don't have a beautiful big old house or all these things. I'm just out here struggling. So is there something wrong with me? And I think what your book is going to hit, it's such a small percentage of what you see online. The 80% of us are the people who need to read your book, that are out there. They feel a little bit isolated. They feel that I can't get out of this. I'm in a culture where this has been my whole life, and how am I ever going to be able to make it one day? That's why I think your book has to be written. And that's why it really does.
Thank you for Mike. Thank you for that. Like that is, brother. I will reflect on this, conversation as I'm trying to piece this together. My goal is to have it done, within the year. So I started a few weeks ago. In a perfect world, I could have it done, by springtime or so. Yep. But it's funny when you say, you were mentioning, like the percent of people that things are not going, perfect for, or they're trying to figure out what the next thing should be. And I will share this with you. So the day that I met, the day or the morning that I was introduced to the possibility of the Air Force, in the evening, I would work for a maintenance company. and I would work from 11 to 7 in the morning. And I vacuumed floors. I stripped and waxed floors. And I was in charge of like these, I want to say it was like the 51st and the 52nd floor of this building in Midtown. And I want to say it might have been like a law firm or something like that. But clearly you don't see the people, right? Because you're there at 11 o'clock. You don't see anything. But what you do see is their offices, the pictures of their families, right? Their diplomas. And I just remember I would go up and down as I was cleaning or on a break, and I would just periodically go into these offices. You know, because I'm cleaning these offices also. I'm wiping things down and I'm vacuuming. And I just remember, you know, I would have these views of Times Square at like 1 or 2 in the morning where all the lights are on and that kind of thing. And I'm in this person's office, huge office, right? Like with a couch and the whole thing. And I would sometimes like sit in their seat and just think to myself, how do I get here? Like, how do I, coming from where I come from, being dealt the cards that I've been dealt, how do I put myself in a position to be successful? And then it goes even a little bit deeper than that, right? Because now I'm looking at the pictures of their families, you know, their vacations, you know, like the frame that has like where they went, you know, like Florida, you know,
Bahamas, Atlantis.
Martha's Vineyard, you know. I just always said to myself, like, man, like, how do I do that? Like, I want to do that one day. I want to be able to sit back. But again, Mike.
Yeah, no, I was going to say, but what you did is instead of being angry or jealous about it, you used it as a motivation. And that to me is all about this book. And what I want to get across to everyone is that is take everything in and use it to motivate. Like you didn't get mad at that guy or that woman's office, like, oh God, and knock the picture over saying, why do you have this and I don't? You said, you sat in the chair and you said, this feels good. How can I get there? And that if you feel you have an option, even if it's in your own brain, maybe nobody's told you that you're great yet and you have to figure that out. You saw that, hey, maybe I can get there one day and this is motivating me too. And that's what I think that's what we have to do. And it seems like that's what your podcasts are about. You're having people on that are motivating and doing things that are really incredible and that regular people can do, you know, and you're given an array of that. And so that's why I feel really cool about this opportunity to be here.
Oh man, thank you. And just, you know, we're very Spark.N.Stride as a production company, as a podcast. We're extremely young, right?
Yeah.
I think this will be like episode 14 or something like that, you know?
Yeah.
When you're doing something that you love, it doesn't feel like work. And I've heard that for years while I was in the military and I'm like, man, like I want that feeling.
Yes.
You know, and I got to tell you, Mike, like I have it present day.
That's
present day, this does not feel like a job. Don't get me wrong. It's really hard. It's really hard to have the visual component, the audio component, obviously, and everything that goes on behind the scenes and that kind of thing. It's not easy, but I love it. And it just doesn't feel like work. I'll even go a bit further. Someone told me that you'll know what you're meant to do when you'll do it for free.
Exactly. So it's my senior year of college. I did accounting undergrad and I did really well in it. When you do accounting, you get hired around January of your senior year and you're going to start in the fall. I got hired by Ernst & Young. At the time, I think it was the big 6 accounting firms. I think Ernst & Young was one. So everyone was saying, oh, Mike, this is so great. You're going to be an accountant and you're going to make good money and all this kind of stuff. I started getting a stomach ache in January every day thinking, and I did the 4 years of school. And I should be excited. While I was doing that, I was working at the Center for Cognitive Rehabilitation in Rutgers, working with people with head injuries. And what's interesting about working with people with head injuries is they remember the way they were before their head injuries. There was one young man that I worked with that was a college student, and his freshman year, he got in a car accident the first day. There was a vice president of the bank that saw somebody taking newspapers out of one of those newspaper bins and said, hey, don't steal them all. And someone took a crowbar and beat him over the head with it. And he now lives in this apartment being taken care of. And I loved this, just helping them, their stories. And I wanted to be a social worker. I was like, So the woman that was working my supervisor at the time, she had something called an MSW, a Master's in Social Work. I didn't even know what the heck that was. And when she was talking about what a social worker does, and when I was there, I loved it. And I would do it for no money. I was barely, I don't know, was I getting minimum wage? And I pivoted, and I was in residence life undergrad, so I knew I could be a resident director, which would help pay for my master's. I didn't know how I was going to pay for it. So I knew I had that to maybe help me defray the costs. And I switched. I called the gentleman at Ernst & Young that was so nice and said, this isn't for me. I want to be a social worker. And I remember that Oprah Winfrey said something, do what you love and the money will come. And do what you're passionate about. And what's really cool is my mom is an artist. So art is not a field really where you make tons of money, right?
Agreed.
So she was like, yeah, do what you love, because, it doesn't have to be a doctor, a lawyer. Everyone just drilled that into my head. That's what you have to do. And when I told a lot of people that I really respected that I'm going to be a social worker and I'm not going to do accounting, they thought I was insane. But I just knew it was what I would do for free. You hit the nail on the head. And everything I was doing was volunteering and doing things for free. American Cancer Society, Big Brother, all those kinds of things. And that's where my heart was. So when I made that decision, my whole life changed because it was starting to do what I loved.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow, man.
Yeah.
Mike, what would you tell a younger Mike?
Oh, gosh. I would say to believe in yourself a little bit more. Don't be so hard on yourself. And just, enjoy the failures and enjoy the successes a little bit, but enjoy the failures more. One thing I learned is the climb is so much more fun than getting to the top of something. Just everything that while you're rising, you want to get there, and you're not enjoying the fun of getting there. And when I mentioned to you about the company I worked at, starting as a director in training, becoming the CEO, it was fun, but I didn't just enjoy it. And then when I got to the top, I'm like, this is cool, but it's not as much fun as the climb was. So maybe enjoying the experience more, embracing the fun, have a little bit of fun. Don't have to get straight A's. I was so into having like almost a 4.0 at college. And if I got a B+, if you get a B+, you're fine. You're still going to get a job. Nobody asked me my grades. Sure, you want to do well,
For sure.
but I got so into just the grades, and that mattered. Like, it was the end all be all was the good grade. It was, what was I learning? Did I just memorize enough to get an A? How about learn the material? And then if an A comes, great, but embrace the material a little bit more instead of just trying to get the A. So I think some of those things, that the grind and the desire to succeed, sometimes you don't enjoy the process as much as I should have or could have.
Wow. Mike, so, Spark.N.Stride as a podcast, right? The 4 pillars of Spark.N.Stride are wellness, mental health, resiliency, personal development. So these are the areas that I try to, I don't feel like I need to pull out every single pillar of conversation in every single podcast. But this is, like I told you before, we're not walking around aimlessly. We're moving in a direction with purpose, right? So in regards to like wellness, your wellness, right? Because it's wellness is different for different people, right? I'm just curious, when do you find time for yourself?
Yeah, that's a great question. So when I started working with kids back in the day in the 90s, I gave them all my home phone number. You don't do this stuff anymore. Give them my home phone number. People call me 3 a.m. My dad just hit me. What do I do? Can you come get me? Will you take me to a doctor? I was so burnt out because I thought it was all about just helping as many people as I can and not myself. But I was taking it all home with me, and it was a burden to take everybody's problems with me. And I remember I was on an airplane, and it really hit me when that oxygen comes down. My thought was, okay, if we were to hit this where the oxygen was needed, I'm going to go run around, put the oxygen on everyone's face. And what they say is, no, put the oxygen on you first. Then while you're breathing, then go around, help everyone put the oxygen on. And I was like, wow, that lesson was just so powerful for me. I'm not putting the oxygen on me first. And if you want to help people, you got to help yourself first and make sure that you're taken care of. So that was vital to me. And I started thinking about myself, eating right, exercising. I'm a gym fanatic. I work out every day. a couple hours a day, and it's great for me mentally. So sure, is it good as you get older, and I love eating. So it's great physically, but no, it keeps me grounded. It's calming to me. So exercise, spending time with family and friends, having fun, finding a balance. Being a workaholic, there is some value when you're younger. It's like fun, especially if you love it, but you have to find balance in your life because you become less interesting the more one-sided you are. So if you love concerts, go to concerts, spend time with friends, do hobbies. You like sports? Do you do fantasy football? Whatever it may be. Are you a collector?
Mm-hmm.
So all these things I've tried to embrace to make sure that I'm okay, because a healthy me can take care of everyone else. An unhealthy me can't, whether it's my own family or whether it's the people in my organization I'm leading or the people that we're serving. So I feel that wellness is huge. And one thing with men that I think is really cool about you and I talking right now, this is a new thing of men saying their issues and what's going on. And what guys used to do was self-medicate, right? We would maybe drink or smoke or do things like that instead of dealing, hey, I'm anxious. I got some anxiety. Okay, I'm going to get some therapy. Maybe I need to take some medication for that anxiety, or just to talk about what we've gone through and not feel it's a weakness to share our issues with each other. So as a therapist, I've thought of, and I haven't done this yet, of doing like a men's group of men, of all of us who are out there trying to succeed and have families. We can come and talk like, man, I feel like a failure today. I don't know what to do. And we're all there for each other, because I think that this is something new that we're all starting to realize that we all need it. I think women have just been, sometimes they're more evolved than we are.
Oh, definitely.
And they knew it way before us.
Way
that
before
therapy
us.
and admitting what's going on is just a part of their DNA. And now as guys, we got to do the same thing. You're still a real cool guy to say, I'm struggling, I'm anxious, I'm hurting, I need you, man. I need some help. I need to talk to somebody. And the more I'm like that, the more I'm finding my friends come and want to talk and be there, and be there for him. Put your arm around him. Hey, man, I'm here. So that helps me too to help other people. So that kind of wellness is just, I think about it a lot now, and I'm just so happy that I don't have to hold those things in, and I can share it.
Yeah.
And now, if you share with a guy, he's not going to think like you're weak. That hey,
right.
you're I'm struggling. You're struggling. Let's help each other.
And in line with what you're saying, one of the very first things I said on the podcast, I want to say I said it like in episode 1 or 2, is that what I wanted to do after the military was be an advocate for wellness and mental health.
Yeah.
I struggle with PTSD, anxiety, depression. When I was first prescribed my anxiety medication, I didn't take it for 3 months.
Mm-hmm.
It literally sat, in a drawer somewhere. And when I had to take the first pill, it just felt like a piece of me was just going away, like my manhood, And I just reflect on that now, and it's like, no, like you were adding to yourself.
Exactly.
Because what was really eating at you and what was really a detriment to yourself was the anxiety. Because there's so many other people, to your point, who rely on you, right? Like you have your family, you have this balance. You're a first sergeant in the Air Force. You cannot appear to be weak. Are you crazy?
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
The stigma that goes along with that.
Yeah.
So yeah, man. So I'm just here, and I just want to continue to echo this message, right? And I think it's important to, like your point, wellness for you is a specific thing, right? It's your family, it's your hobbies, it's having that balance. And I think, to your point, more people need to hear that. Men, I think we're a little bit behind the curve in regards to how we deal with our personal issues and that sort of a thing. Like for instance, like AA, right?
Mm-hmm.
AA, you get paired up with a sponsor or a mentor, right?
Mm-hmm.
Who has dealt with it already, and they're there as a guiding light or as a beacon, right? why do we need to be in AA to have that sort of support?
Right.
We don't. It shouldn't be that way.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, you know. So
exactly. And what's interesting when you shared, with me just recently about you taking that pill and that it was hard for you to do. I definitely think for anxiety, I need one. So just you sharing that and knowing that you're a cool, manly, cool, kind of guy.
Thanks, man.
And
Thank
that you could do,
Yeah.
it's inspired me to I really want to revisit that. And
Yeah.
so that you shared that makes me now want to take that pill because I do think it would help me. I'm good at hiding the anxiety, but I think that I need it also. So this back and forth, it's just, wow, he can do it. Why can't I? So again, that's the wellness is sharing stuff with people, and then other people motivate you that, hey, this is cool. That if I have an issue, it's okay to do something about it.
100%. I think also like in terms of like, like being a man or I know folks listening or watching, they'll throw in the whole like transgender thing and that's just not what this conversation is about. And ultimately, to be quite honest and transparent, it's not about male or female. It's about being a human being,
exactly.
right? Like this is what I'm getting at. It's about being a human being, and we all struggle with something, right? We're not alone. So, but what I wanted to say is, when you're thinking about the stigma of medication and these kinds of things, I gotta tell you quite honestly, like the medication helps me.
Yeah,
it helps me. We are whatever age, we are at the moment. You look like you're 30 something years old.
Oh, thanks. 56.
But Mike, it's a 56-year-old engine.
Yeah.
The engine light's going to go on.
Yeah.
It turns on.
It turns on a lot.
It needs some maintenance.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Agreed.
So like stop thinking that you're running this, 20-year-old engine, with low miles. Like, no, dude, like it has miles. It has experience, it just requires some maintenance. That's all. And it's not a stigma. It's nothing, clearly you're what we would call operational.
Yeah.
Right. You're functioning, you're running your company, you're running your business, you've written your book, so yeah, man, thank you for, I'm glad that me being open about these topics have, affected you to the point where,
Definitely. No, I appreciate it.
Yeah, man. But hey, Mike, in regards to like your journey, right? Your journey to where you are now, like clearly you have a track record for being successful. You've written your book. What would you like leaving here today, right? When this goes out into the airways, when this goes out on YouTube, when this goes out on social media, what would you like folks to know about you?
I guess I'd like people just to know that I'm a guy that just wanted to go out there and make a difference and help people. And that, if you're like that too, you can also be a leader. You don't just have to go out there and help people, which is great. If that's what you want to do, that's fantastic. But there is more to it, and you have it in you to do more than just be that be that nurse or that teacher in a classroom or a social worker on the field, which is incredible. I loved it. I did it for years. But you can do more. And I'm somebody who nobody believed in when I was young. Everyone thought I was not going to do much. Nobody thought I was going to go to college. I was the quiet kid sitting in a corner. When I moved a million times as a kid. I went to 12 different schools in 12 years. When I lived on one street, I became friends with this one kid, but the mom said, ask No Name to come over one day because we both didn't talk.
Wow.
We both sat there. I was a wallflower. I was scared of my own shadow. I didn't, if I can do it, anyone can, is what I'm here to say. And that we're all regular people in trying to do extraordinary things. And I feel that that's what, I have been able to do, which isn't me. I'm not an extraordinary person, but some of the things that I've experienced have been. I mean, all the people I've worked with, the families I've worked with, the families that I've been honored to work with and help have just, shaped me and made my life so rich. Is that, if you got a lot of time and you're just feeling a little isolated, go out and volunteer and help. that's something that turned my life around. One thing that a couple buddies of mine did, it was called the buddy system at Rutgers undergrad. And all of us, you don't, in college, a lot of times you don't take classes on Fridays. So, okay, you want to go out Thursday night and party and have a great time, but then Friday, what are you going to do? How about you mentor a kid at the local school, at wherever you're going to college? Pick something to do and help somebody. It'll help you, it helps somebody, and it gives your life a mission and a purpose. So I'm just somebody who, I didn't believe in myself. Other people didn't believe in me. And just by doing and finding a passion, I was able to resurrect myself and create something out there. So, and I just find some happiness. And I guess, that's what I want to get across.
Oh, man. Thank you, man. That was awesome, man. Hey, listen, I mean, folks are going to see this. And, I think that's going to hit home with a lot of people, So, Mike, I can't thank you enough.
Oh, thank you so much.
For coming by Spark.N.Stride. This has been amazing, right? Like, you're the first author to be on Spark.N.Stride. Do you want to plug any of your social media handle or your LinkedIn handle or anything? Plug your book.
So the book is on pre-order right now. Okay. It's Roman and Littlefield is a publisher. It's roman.com. So you can find Doing Good and Doing Well. It's right up on there now. And it's on Amazon. That's a real cool thing to see. If you put in my name, the book shows up. It's all pre-order now. It's coming out in late November.
Okay.
So yeah, if you found some of this interesting, you want to give it a read, I'd love it.
Oh man, that's awesome, man. And if there's anything I could do, in the meantime to be part of your movement to get your word out, please, you got my number. I'm here for you 100%. The next book, should you get inspired, should the spark happen again where you want to write the next book, please come to Spark.N.Stride and let's discuss it.
If you'll have me back, I'd be thrilled.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Much appreciated.
Yep.
Stay sparked.
Heavy duty.
It's smart.